All right, this is a B&G Extenda-Ban valve. It was leaking from the tip, so what I wanted to do was get the cable out. So the first thing I did was remove the screw holding the handle on. And that's a two-part screw. You take off one part, you unscrew it, and then you got to pull the other screw out. And you kind of have to pry it out. It's not that easy. So that's what I'm doing there. After that, we're going to take the handle off, which only comes off. You got to twist it like 90 degrees and remove it out the back. And you'll see that in a second. After that, attached to the cable is something called an adjustment screw and a locking nut. Those are the next two things I'm going to remove. So right now I'm all right. So we pried that out. Those are the two-piece screws that screw together that hold the handle on. Now, like I said, you remove it towards the back and you twist it 90 degrees and you can take it off. Come on. And this is about 2 hours of work broken down into this 10-minute whatever video. All right, so next thing I'm going to take the adjustment screw off, which is in the back there, and then the locking nut. So that's the adjustment screw. Next is a locking nut. And then the packing nut is after that. The packing nut actually, all right, packing nut's next. That's this one. This one you need a wrench for. All right, that screws right into the valve body, I guess. I guess for my particular case, it was what, 3/8? Yep, 3/8. So that unscrews. Like I said, ton of noise in the background, which is why I'm doing this as a voiceover. I was not planning on making this video, which is why the quality is so bad. So once you get it started, you can pretty much take it out by hand. All right, there it comes. All right, I'm not sure whether this screws off or pulls off. I think it pulls out, but mine wouldn't. I didn't want to pull too hard, so if you just unscrew it and pull a little bit, it should come off. Okay, that's done. There are a couple of nylon nuts in there, whatever you want to call it. Some nylon gaskets in there. I think there's 3 of them. I didn't even take them off. So now I'm just removing that body from the valve body from the wand part. So I'm just hanging on to it, and I'm just going to give it a twist. All right, great. It's almost like a compression fitting. So once you unscrew it, you can pull the whole thing out like that. And like I said, see in there, there's a couple of white nylon washers, but I left them in there. I think there are 3 in my particular case. So now you put that aside. Now you got to work on the front or the tip. So you just take that apart. Everybody knows how to do this part. I'm taking the little gasket out, which I'm going to have to replace. I'm going to unscrew that tip. The multi-jet tip holder, tip assembly, whatever they call it. All right, next. That thing right there. Pay attention to how that goes on. That's called the soft seat gasket. Okay, it goes kind of the opposite of the way you'd think. The flat big part goes towards the outside. So watch, it kind of goes like that. Okay? The small part goes against that square thing. So that square thing you take off next. That's called the seat stem nut. So there's three things. There's the outside, then there's that small nut right there, and then there's a spring after that. After you pull, now you can pull it out the back. You can't pull it out the front. And I didn't pull the spring out, but it just kind of fell out, but it was right there. All right, so that's it. So that's, you get to the valve cable. Now I'm going to put it back together like Humpty Dumpty. All right, there's a spring right there. If you caught a quick glimpse in my left hand, there it is. All right, so now put this thing back together. Just do it in the opposite way. You have to make sure you thread it. And there's a very good, B&G has a really good manual. But you put it through from the back to the front. The one with the smaller part by the threads goes in the front. The part with the larger part where the threads are, the larger piece of metal goes towards the back. So you just put it in from the back to the front with nothing attached to it. You slide it all the way through. Then you put on those two things, the seat stem nut and the seat stem. So first the spring. There's the spring. Then the seat stem nut. Now, very important, you have to screw it all the way down as far as you can, and then you back it out about 4 turns. So I'm putting it all the way in first. Then you back it out like 4 turns. I got the headlamp on. It's like 4 threads. So you're just looking somewhere around there. That's important. Now I'm going to put the end of it on, which is called the seat stem. Cleaning it off first. You screw that all the way on until it hits the seat stem nut, and you only hand tighten that. You got to make sure you don't cross thread this stuff, because it's easy to cross thread all these things. All right, there's that. Then you shove it all the way in. Now you put the body back on, the valve body. And you slide that through. And you make sure that those nylon washers stay in there. And like I said, it depends on what model you have. You could either 2 washers or 3. You definitely look up where the manual is. So again, like a compression fitting, kind of, sort of. So I'm not going crazy tightening this till I make sure it works. I'll just give it like a 1/4 of a turn with a wrench. But you got to get the proper size wrenches or else you mess the whole thing up. Just keep that in mind. So like I said, I'm not over tightening, just a little bit. Okay. So now you put back on the packing nut, which is that. And if there's not enough of the thread sticking out, you can actually push the seat stem in from the other side. So I'm pushing it with my finger. With my left hand, I'm pushing the end, and that pushes the end of the cable out the back like that. So I'm putting it back the opposite way, the way I took it off. I'm just screwing and pushing and pushing and screwing. And then once you get to the threads, you go back to your 3/8 inch wrench and you tighten it down. Now this can leak. It's a packing nut, like in any valve, like any faucet. So you got to really tighten it. And then after that, you got to put the lock nut and adjustment screw on. So the lock nut goes first. And once you put the lock nut on, you can pull the entire valve cable back in order to get the adjustment screw on. You'll see what I'm talking about. So I tighten that down pretty well so it doesn't leak. All right, now we're going to put the lock nut on. And you see there's not that much of the cable sticking through. So obviously I'm not going to be able to put that lock nut and the adjustment screw on. There's just no room. So first I'm going to put the lock nut on. And once it catches, I can take some pliers and give it a pull like this, watch. See, I've pulled it backwards. Now I can screw that down some more, that lock nut, which I'm doing right now, and give it some room. I'm even going to do that, I think, a couple of times. All right, so I might have done it twice. Anyway, now we're going to put the adjustment screw on, and it goes on the very end. And the handle fits between that adjustment screw and the lock nut. So watch, yeah, I'm pulling it out again. I'm going to screw that lock nut in more so I can get some more cable out the back. And then I'll put the adjustment screw on like that. The rest of this is just like finessing. Okay, so you got to put the handle on and work it so that the back piece, which is called what? The back piece is called like the safety lock nut, the thing that prevents the trigger from being pulled. You have to make sure that hits. You have to make sure that actually works. So watch. I'm going to stick the handle back on. I put some oil on it. Again, you put it on in the back at a 90-degree angle, slide it up, and then you work in not easily, but you put the trigger screw, which is right there, the two halves. One's a long half, and that's really what holds it. You really got to line it up perfectly and push the end of the valve cable in. It's a lot of playing to get it to fit in there. I actually put a little bit of WD-40 on it also. All right, I'm going to screw in the other half, which I might have done already. Nope, I'm putting it in my homemade vise because it's hard to keep it standing up. All right, so I'll take the other half, screw it together. Just so it's tight enough. So I'm screwing those two halves together. All right, so next is that safety lock nut, and there's a very small snap ring you have to put on after you thread it in. So watch. All right, so it works. So there's that lock nut, the lock ring. But again, it doesn't. When you screw it all the way in, you have to see how it's screwed all the way in. You could still push that down. That's no good. So what you have to do is you have to play with the adjustment ring, the adjustment screw. So you have to unscrew the adjustment screw, screw the lock nut against it, and really play with it so that when that safety screw is all the way in, you can't push down the handle at all. Again, that's not the most important thing in the world, but you got to finesse it a little bit. I don't know if I even showed that, but you have to play with the adjustment screw. You have to back out the adjustment screw. And there I'm putting the snap ring on. That's a safety lock nut. And the snap ring keeps it from unscrewing all the way. So that's what I'm doing right there. All right, now I'm going to put the front parts on. So I didn't show finessing it around, but you do have to play with it in order to get the locking part to work properly. So, all right, this part is the soft seat gasket. You have to make sure you put it the right way. And then you have to put that multi-eject tip on and screw it in. You have to pull the handle down as you're doing this. Makes it a lot easier. So you kind of line it up. And the rest of this, I'm sure you guys know. The rest of this is just a matter of making sure it's tight, putting that little viton gasket in, and tightening up the multi-jet tip and the tip retainer. And then I put back the little strainer and attach it together. Watch the little viton gasket. Screw the tip assembly on. Put in a little mesh strainer. That's basically it. Thanks for watching.